If you use an AR-15 for home defense, you need to practice with your trigger and your sights. The Mantis Blackbeard allows you to do that much more effectively. It's a drop-in bolt carrier group and magazine that works with your trigger and your sights in your rifle to give you real-time feedback and reset your trigger up to 10 times a second. I use it all the time to be more proficient as a carbine shooter, and I recommend it highly.
Hey everyone, Brian Hill with the Complete Combatant. You're on Active Self-Protection Extra, and this is your Mantis Dry Fire Mondays. Today we're working on primary hand only drawing, which I think is important. We've been doing a series of how to improve your draw. Last week we worked on getting it out of concealment. You might want to refer to that video because there'll be things that'll, they interweave with this video a little bit. There's 4 reasons that I might not be able to use my support hand in the draw. All right, 4 good reasons for the armed citizen. I keep this in the context of the armed citizen. That's primarily who I train. This is not law enforcement or military application. And it's important not to get those confused because several things are different for us. The idea of always being in concealment is very different for the armed citizen, and it creates an advantage where nobody knows that you have a gun, but a disadvantage where it makes it harder to get the gun out, and we have to practice with it. One of the 4 reasons is that I might be using a flashlight. All right. Another one is that I'm entangled with somebody and I'm controlling the arm with an overhook, an underhook, or a tie and keeping the hand closest to my gun away. Another one is that I've injured this hand somehow and it's not available. And then the last one is controlling someone. All right. Maybe moving my daughter or my wife out of the way, or someone in a crowd. I may be pushing them out of the way to clear my vision. So I may not clear my shooting lane. I may not be able to use this hand because it may be otherwise involved. And then it's interesting, when we watch Active Self-Protection, sometimes people just shoot one-handed. So it bears some practicing. I think a lot of practice for the armed citizen. All right. Now, when we talk about flashlights, everybody gets off in the weeds about which position and what kind of light and all the equipment. But I'm going to tell you this, my life changed significantly when I moved to the country. Okay. That way is the National Forest. It goes all the way to Tennessee. And there is one street light out here that makes things worse instead of better because it ruins my night vision and creates deep, dark shadows all around the property. So it's really dark here. The other thing is I walk dogs at night, and now I'm more concerned about 4-legged predators than 2-legged predators up here. Although it still could be a concern, but coyotes and bears are a bigger concern. So I made 2 big changes to my carry methodology. One is at night I carry a much bigger flashlight because I need a lot more throw. I'm sure there's better ones on the market, but this one does more than a sufficient job for me. So I like this flashlight. Don't ask me which type. It doesn't matter. Get a flashlight that works well for you. But my smaller flashlights that I use to be a deselection tool in the city are not good enough for up here because, we have a Rottweiler and a Cane Corso, and those dogs are perfectly camouflaged at night. They're really hard to find on the property. So I need something that will really reach out a long way and I can find the dogs with. Now, let's look at this real quick. I put a light on my gun too, okay? Never used to carry a light on my gun. I'm not recommending that you do, all right? Just simply makes it easier for me. Weapon is unloaded, tap rack train in there, empty magazine, and now we're working. Remember, slowly, reluctantly, and carefully back to the holster. That light does a couple things for me really well. Of course, it provides light, all right? It makes it easier for me to retain the firearm because it's harder to grip the front of the gun. It provides balance to the front of the weapon for me, all right? It also spreads the weight across my pelvis better for the appendix carry, which was a quite surprising benefit to carrying with it, all right? It cost me 3 or 4 ounces. It's not significantly heavy, but I wouldn't need it in the city in the same way that I need it out here in the country. Let's talk about learning for you guys real quick. Most people either want to start at the beginning or at the very end, which is not a bad place to start. All right, we have to start at one of those. The bad part is that we miss what happens in the middle. When we start drawing one-handed, this hand is responsible for 100% of the action. So it's not only got to clear the cover garment, it's got to get a grip on the gun, it's got to drive the gun straight out. If I'm going to activate the light on the gun, I have to activate it without activating the trigger. So I got a lot going on in that one mode. Now, if I had a flashlight and I'm going to go this one, I'm probably going to let go of that. But it's not a skills test on flashlight work. It's just a single-handed draw. Your continuous motion is always faster than stop and start. What I mean by that is I see a lot of this. And then draw. Anytime that you come to rest, it's hard to get started again. So we want to make sure that our hands move in a continuous fluid motion. Don't have herky-jerky stops because they create hitches in your program and they make you much slower. Circles are always better for human beings than straight lines because that's how our joints are made. They move in circles. So it's easier to move a circle. A smaller circle is better than a bigger circle, but it can't get so small that it doesn't fulfill the role of its motion. So we need to make sure that's in there. And the elbow is the place where we're going to rotate from mostly on this draw. So let's look at it real quick. We're just going to take this hand out of play. I'm just going to hold my collar so it's out of the way. So when the gun clears the holster, watch what my elbow does. I drop my elbow. I'm not pulling up like this. I'm dropping something, which is a lot quicker for us. And then it aligns the gun up with the body. And that's going to be really important. Now, there's 3 ways to clear this cover garment. 3 good ways that I know of. There may be more, okay? But the 3 that I've seen is up and down. You bring the shirt up, drive back down, and then clear the cover garment, drive it straight to the target, okay? The other one is to tuck it behind the firearm itself, fold it out of the way it tucks there, then go get the gun and get that position. And the final way is a circular technique. So I make a circle here, it folds the shirt out of the way, and then I go get the gun and come back out. That last one for me is my primary mode. It works very well. I've experimented a lot on force with it, and I've seen great success. It just takes practice. Choose one, stick with it, and get after it. Okay, and you'll do much better. The biggest thing that keeps people from getting a good draw with their primary hand only is tension. They get tense in the hand, they grip the shirt really hard, and then they try to grip the gun really hard, and now you've spoiled the one thing you have for controlling that gun. So we've got to practice with this hand being somewhat relaxed. I'm going to do the circle only from here on out, but I relax my hand so it's around the gun. Trigger fingers out of the way. I'm using a claw-style grip because I'm on the front, but if it was on the side, I would do the same thing. It's exactly the same motion for me. Very little difference from here to here on this movement. Now I've got a good grip on the gun, and that means that my hand is compressing around it and not tensing away from it. If you put too much tension in it, your hand will simply leave spaces inside there. You'll have a hard time controlling it. As soon as the muzzle clears the end of the holster, my elbow drops, and now I'm really gripping with the pinky, ring finger, and middle finger so that I get a good control. I'm going to drive the gun straight out to the target until I see the sights, then finger's going to come to the trigger, and I'll be ready to press off the shot. That last portion can be practiced really well with your Mantis. You're going to work on the primary and the support hand only shooting, and it'll really improve your trigger pressing. I'm going to give you a couple ideas of what to work on. Let's talk about stance and hand position. This always comes into play. So some people like to step forward with the other foot and drive behind it. Some people are going to stay in the same stance. I kind of fall in the camp that I may be moving anyway, and it might not be that important. But with the dot, I have found a true advantage of staying in the same stance because my mechanics become the same. When we draw, we have a kinesthetic index where this side of the body blocks this side of the body, so they're drawing and forcing this straight out. When you take this away, it's really easy to overswing or underswing your target because you're lacking that balance. So this is more of a visual draw than a kinesthetic draw. You can practice and get better, but you're not going to have the balance from the other side. So I stay in the same stance and I draw the gun straight out. I tense underneath the armpit so I get the big muscles behind it, and now I see the sights straight in front of me. This way, when I press the trigger, it's going to recoil and come straight back down, recoil and come straight back down. I found that when I shoot like this, it's a lot harder to track the dot, and then the rounds tend to go diagonally across the body instead of straight up and down. I think that's a pretty big advantage. If you tend to lift your hand and your thumb is turned more inboard, it's posture more than anything else, okay? If your shoulders are rolled forward, when you lift your arms, your thumbs will be turned towards each other. If they're in kind of a neutral position, you'll find almost 45. And if you're really open in the chest and you pull down in your lats, when you lift it, it'll be almost thumb up. If you look at the point of your shoulder, the more you can see the point, the more likely your thumb's going to be rolled in. All right. So whoever espouses one position over the other, look at their posture. You'll see where their preference was really built from. I like bigger muscles. This one is pure deltoid with thumb this way. When I put this way, I can stabilize with the chest and use the back and everything to lift behind it. So it helps me tremendously to control that and stabilize the grip because the stability is what I need in it. Vision is going to be much more important than kinesthetic feeling in this because when you get the gun out, what we're going to do is confirm the sights. Once we confirm the sights, it'll fire. Now, I will not be able to shoot as fast as I usually do. So if I had 2 hands on the gun, I'm running a bill drill on a big target, it's going to be 0.2s. On the same big target, if I'm shooting primary hand only, it's going to be 0.3, probably 0.4. Depends how the sight settles. I'm not going to shoot any faster than I can see the sights because I'll simply miss at that point. So I want to practice seeing the sights come straight back down, lift, come straight back down, come straight back down. That will be the same whether it's a red dot or iron-sighted gun. Work it the same way, okay? You pick the stance, work with it, get good at it, work on clearing the cover garment. That needs to be very, very reliable because that's where the big part of it is. If you race and you pull too high and then you try to come back down, see, I can't beat the shirt if I pull too high. So when I come up, I want to get inside of it. If you look, my thumb transfers inside of the shirt at that point. When I do the fold, I got to tuck all the way around and come back. By far the slowest. Some people feel like it's a bit more reliable, but if you miss the tuck, it's not. So you have to get the tuck each time and then drive the gun straight out. For me, it's the circle. It feels very natural. It's a natural part of my movement. And I've practiced it quite a bit. And then I can drive that gun into a straight position. If I had a jacket on, nothing really changes because it's the same. Jacket, strong side is superior with one hand only because there's no change in the draw. It is exactly the same draw. My hand's here. Only difference is it doesn't pick up with the other one. I have the exact same hand motion, where this one I have a little different clearing. And same thing, strong side concealed, closed garment. I'm going to have to circle and get to that gun. Always bring the thumb inside the shirt. That's going to allow the shirt to stay out of the way. So we're making a transfer to thumb inside the shirt. All right, I hope that helps you out, guys. Primary hand shooting and support hand shooting will make you a better shooter. It's worth doing. Primary hand shooting may be really important for you. If you use a flashlight, all right, if you get injured, I don't know about entangled fighting because I don't think we're going to be drawing to the same thing. If I have somebody here, I'm only going to be drawing to here. So I think it's a different set of coursework that you need to work on for that 5 to 0 feet with the primary hand. So think about that. And then the other one is controlling somebody, a loved one, a child, your dogs. All those things come into play for me that this hand simply might be busy and I might have to draw that. Practice these techniques, especially if you spend a lot of time in the dark like I do apparently. And make sure you make good choices relative to your contextual environment. Okay, get on your Mantis, get your practice in, get those good trigger presses, then work on your draw. You can do a primary hand only draw on the Mantis. It's going to degrade what you see as far as your motions. We're only talking about a 0.2 difference with one hand over two hands. So if you watch this motion, that's a 1 second draw. If you watch this motion, that's probably a 1-2 draw. And it just requires you to practice it significantly and know what the time standards are for you so that you can make good choices when you have to use your firearm. All right, guys, Brian Hill with the Complete Combatant. And as always, measure, refine, and perform.